So the Republicans are quitting en masse. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are having a total freak out, and the U.S. economy looks to be heading off a cliff. That's a regular Thursday in USA, and this is where we're at. I want to show you guys what's going on. House GOP exits mount as gridlock deepens. Basically, a lot of Republicans are jumping ship, and as I told you guys several times, do not tie your career to Donald Trump. You don't want to go down with the ship. And essentially, Republicans are skipping out. Look at House Republicans have an exodus problem. More than 24 GOP lawmakers have already announced their decision to leave their seats at the end of the term, right? So it'll probably end up being more, as this says here. The number is expected to grow in the coming weeks as lawmakers visit their families for the holidays, complicating Republican efforts to fend off a blue wave and keep their slim majority. And essentially, you go home and your family's like, it's just not worth it. Trump's a Titanic. If you tie your name to Trump, you're going to go down in history as being literally on the wrong side of history. Or do you want to spend like all day, every day having to defend Trump's policies to your constituents? Like, imagine the phone calls they're all getting is like, oh my God, what's this crazy Trump diet doing? And you have to try to have a town hall and everyone's booing at you. It's not worth it. And there's a lot of Republicans out there that just like, you know what, I'm too old for this stuff. I'm getting out. And what's interesting is that Elon Musk and then Trump are having freakouts in kind of similar ways. Elon Musk is doing his greatest hits of racist tweets, etc. So this was the headline then today. Elon Musk is on a racist posting spree. I noticed it before. I was looking at that and I showed you guys like one. And if you want to look at all the stuff, you can see what he writes. But it was Musk. That's kind of stuff he tweets out, but he was doing it in such, rapid succession and kind of more aggressive kind of stuff. And just the same kind of stuff he says. If you want to look at Musk's racist stuff, you're free to do so. It's a free country. And the same way, if you want to read through all of Trump's 160 posts on Truth Social, which he did in the evening, you're free to do that as well. Now, whether or not Trump is really tweeting out all this stuff, who knows? I think Musk really does tweet out a bunch of stuff because he's just that kind of dude. Trump's tweets, like, sometimes it sounds like him, other times it's not. It sounds similar to him. And people have pointed out that one of the ways to tell is if it is a complete sentence, that's a high chance it's not Trump. So, because he'll say like nonstop gibberish, and the stuff that Trump will tend to say mostly is like blame Biden and blame all of your enemies, which he did. He did like 160 times, and then he would retweet people's stuff and then kind of comment on said things. And it's kind of funny. This is the Guardian, and you got to have fun with this stuff because it's so ludicrous. They were talking about when Trump goes to bed. It's for real. The U.S. president appears to finally made it to bed sometime after midnight, but was up bright and early again on Tuesday to resume his finger tapping with posts concerning the upcoming governor's election. So whether or not that's Trump, who knows? Here's the thing. The Japanese markets may have a big change to where they could raise interest rates, and that will have major effect on the U.S. market. So here's the basic gist of it. It's the carry trade, and the idea is that I can borrow in Japan for very, very cheap, okay? And then I take that money and then I'll throw it into the U.S. markets, and I can make money because the U.S. even if I just say bonds or something like that, then the yields are much higher. So there's a percentage difference. If the U.S. is cutting and the Japanese is raising, that changes the equation in the math of the carry trade effectively, right? And I'm showing you a chart here of like, you can see the two interest rates are coming close. And what's interesting about this whole thing is that Trump is like really, really pushing for the U.S. to cut rates. Japan is like pushing the raise. And so what could end up happening is a lot of like big Japanese pension funds or investors or hedge funds or whatever could be like, you know what? I'm just going to like take all our money out of the USA and start putting it in Japan. And so you might see a big sell-off of, U.S. bonds, stocks, whatever. And then on top of, if Trump, gets his people in and he keeps doing deficit spending and has all this, crazy ideas and the math doesn't work out, the U.S. will just like, you know what, we need to borrow a whole bunch more. And then they're going to have to have a problem where what if foreign countries, be it Japan or China or Korea or UK, don't want to buy U.S. debt anymore because they can buy Japan debt or buy something else, right? It just ruins the math for everyone. And I'll just say this, it changes the equation quite considerably. So this is actually a big deal. if you start to hear more about Japan, I think they have a rate meeting. It's like 18th or 19th. The U.S. one is coming up like 15th or 16th, something like that. So they're going to be right back to back. I'll just say this, the markets could be really, really volatile. So keep an eye on this one. And then also Bessent. So there's two guys in the Trump's economic stuff. There's the Bessent and the Hassett guy. Bessent's the guy who coughs a lot and stutters, and Hassett's the guy who's always smiling. Both these guys, they're not stupid. I always want to make that clear. They're not stupid, but they're total liars and completely untrustworthy. And the way that this thing is playing out, Hassett leads Trump's economic council thing, and then Hassett would leave that, maybe take over the Fed. That's kind of the rumor mill at the moment. I think what they're doing is they're running the pick, being Hassett, all around Wall Street, et cetera, and be like, hey, are you going to freak out if we pick Hassett? And some people are saying, yeah, we'll totally freak out. And I mean, we'll see. It's hard to say because Trump, he keeps saying good things about Hassett. Hassett's a moron. I mean, okay, I'll be clear. These guys are smart. They're just more in a sense of, I don't like him. Leave it that way. Bessent then would take control of the National Economic Council, and they'll just put out a bunch of fake numbers, right? That's basically what it boils down to. And so essentially you're not basing economic or fiscal policy in the USA on anything rational. It's just going to be on, whatever Trump farts one day or whatever his, corrupt advisors want to do, which is print a bunch of money and give it to their billionaire buddies. That's what it boils down to. And then you got the Japanese carry trade where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to put money in Japan. And this is also what's going on. I got to show you more because it's all connected. And then the EU wants to crack down more on Elon Musk's X platform. They're like saying, I think you're not being transparent enough. I'll read a little bit of this. You're violating our laws, et cetera. It says, the EU's executive arm, the European Commission, accuses X, which counts 102 million users in Europe, so it's a lot of people in the EU, of breaching transparency requirements, preventing researchers from accessing data, and misleading users by converting the blue tick granted to verified accounts into a paid feature. Oh, I didn't know about that one. So the blue check thing is basically like, okay, it was free before because you were verified. And then I guess suddenly now you're paying Elon Musk $8 a month or whatever it is without your permission. I wouldn't be shocked if Musk pulled that kind of crap on people in the EU. And if you guys can let me know if he did, I just wouldn't be shocked he's that kind of person. The transparency stuff, like what if they're manipulating the platform to put out Musk, whatever racist message or, far right party messages, who knows? EU, I just recommend, yes, do regulate that kind of stuff. Don't let these dudes run wild in the EU. And it's the same. EU is also going to launch some sort of antitrust thing against Meta, and it's like AI in their WhatsApp. Now, what's interesting in the USA is when the U.S. economy is going off a cliff and Trump's got his cronies trying to take control of the economic system, there's just so much corruption, and you actually see it live. So the best way to explain this stuff to a MAGA person, or if you're just watching these things, are like, why doesn't your life get better? Is because there's a lot of reasons, and I can't go everything of your particular situation, but why doesn't the system improve? That's a better way to put it. Is because if you have people at the top that are more concerned about putting money into their pockets and they're already the richest people on the planet, then it doesn't leave much left for regular people, right? And the interest of the government and the way money is utilized isn't for the benefit of all people; it's the benefit for themselves. So, for example, this was an interesting exchange. One of Musk's buddies may take in charge of NASA, and then NASA contracts will then go to Musk and his friends. So it says here, NASA nominee refuses to say if Musk was in the room when Trump offered the job, right? And this is a big one. And let me read the exchange. You guys can hear it for yourself. So listen how this stuff plays out. So I wanted to give you one more chance to set the record straight. Okay, it's coming from, I think, Senator Markey. It says, was Elon Musk in the meeting at Mar-a-Lago when President Trump offered you the job? Okay, it's a fair question. Okay, Isaacman, I think it's Jared Isaacman. Isaacman did not answer the question directly, but noticed that the initial meeting with the president was not in a private setting. So here's what he said. My first interview with the president, I think I've had several opportunities since the re-engage, was in a ballroom type setting, Senator. There were dozens of people moving in and out that I would not say were in the meeting. Okay, what does that mean? So it's not really a lie per se, just saying there's a lot of people there. Okay, this is Markey says, okay, Markey pressed again, noting, quote, it's a very simple question as to whether, Musk was in the room when Trump offered the job. And then the guy responds, Senator, my interview my conversations were with the president, and there were dozens of people moving in and out of the room, and I don't think it's fair to bring any of them into this matter. So he's just really not answering, right? And Mark says, once again, you're refusing to tell us whether Elon Musk was in the room that day, and that actually makes me think that Elon Musk was in the room that day, but that you understand that it's a clear conflict of interest that he was there, right? And so when people refuse to answer these kind of questions, because you could just say, no, he wasn't there, right? Or you could say, yeah, he was totally there, but he's just like not answering. So that's where we're at. And it's like, and the craziest crap about these people is they fight with each other. So like Sam Altman is like thinking about building a company to compete with Musk SpaceX because they like to measure, each other's missiles, that kind of stuff, and who has the bigger bank account for it. It's like not nonstop stupid crap like that. And then this is also interesting, and I just want to point all this stuff out because, in this like crazy corrupt clown world, don't think that everyone's a pushover. So this is an interesting one that the New York Times is they're going to sue the Pentagon, and basically it's over First Amendment rights. And if you remember this, the Pentagon, as the Hague says, people, right? They're just like, you know what? You got to sign our loyalty pledge if you're a journalist, and like all the major networks, and I think it was even Fox News refused to sign. It was I think only like one, whatever you want to call it major, but just like it was like a Newsmax or something like that, like signed on. And then they brought in a bunch of MyPillow people and Rumble people and Laura Loomer and this kind of stuff. And I'm not kidding about the MyPillow thing. People think I'm kidding. No, I'm serious. It's like a MyPillow. Mike Lindell's got like a TV network or something. So let's see what the New York Times says, and it matters because like you want transparency. You would say like, was Elon Musk in the room? That's a legitimate question, and someone probably knows. Okay, so the New York Times says it plans to sue the Pentagon, arguing that the Defense Department infringes on constitutional rights of its journalists by imposing a set of new restrictions on reporting about the military. Okay, the Pentagon policy, here's a quote here, is exactly the type of speech and press restrictive scheme that the Supreme Court and the D.C. District have recognized violates the First Amendment. The company said in a summary of the filing, the lawsuit will be filed on Thursday in U.S. District Court in Washington, the Times said. And this is a response, because you want to hear both sides here. In a statement, the company, actually I'll read more of the New York Times. In a statement, the company said it intends to vigorously defend against the violation of these rights, just as we have long done throughout administrations opposed to scrutiny and accountability. Pentagon officials have said, access to military facilities is a privilege subject to regulation. The policy is, quote, is preventing leaks that damage the operational security and national security. Quote, it's common sense. That's what the Pentagon said. So basically they're just saying like, if you hang out and tell people the truth, you're going to expose how incompetent Pete Higgs is. That's how I read that. So there's that. I always bring up this movie, guys. Please see it if you haven't already. It's called 1987, When the Day Comes. It's a Korean movie. And I'll give you the setup, and you understand why I always recommend it if you haven't. Basically, there's a death of a protester. It's like the first scene, the death of a protester. The government tries to cover it up, and like their explanation is like completely ridiculous. And then people start to ask questions. And so then the film, and it's a true story, the film goes into, how you try to cover up, get people to go along, how do people investigate said things, and sort of captures the era which is in what the USA is right now. Like what happened in Korea in 1987 is very similar to what's going on right now here in USA. And I also mentioned 12/12 today as well. But please check it out if you haven't, because when you look at the nonsense that Trump puts out, like for example, here's an example that just happened today here. POTUS said 6 hours ago, releasing, quote, whatever they have would be no problem, but the Pentagon Secretary Higgs have not released the unedited video yet. So it's like, dude, where's the tape? And the question is, will we release a video of the September 2nd boat strike? Trump says, whatever they have, we'd certainly release it, no problem, right? And that's the kind of crap they'll pull in like 1987 Korea. And essentially you got to, figure this stuff out. And for any number of these things that's going on in the world, there's going to be some truth. Right? There's going to be truth whether or not Musk was, in the room when his buddy was hired or being interviewed for NASA. Or there's going to be truth in like, hey, are people losing jobs or people getting jobs? There's going to be truth in like, hey, is a particular company awarded a contract? Were there other bids? These kind of things. Like there's going to be truth in this kind of stuff. And, journalism, honesty in these things are really important. And I always tell you guys the same things. I'm happy to have conversations on any number of things. What's sad though in this world, there's a lot of people out there that honestly don't like the truth. It's really uncomfortable in this day and age because basically how this game is played in today's social media driven world If you don't like what you're hearing, you just flip the channel and say, I want someone else to tell me what I want to hear, right? People actually don't want to be told the truth in these days, and it's tough. For me personally, and I write about this stuff in my book, it's called Positive Angle. If you live in reality and you deal with the truth, you will be more likely to solve your real problems opposed to just pretending they don't exist. And this is the kind of the world that I like to live in and have honest discussions with people. And you want to find people who are willing to have conversations in good faith. And I'll just give you a very simple example. I tell you all the time, the Charlie Kirk dude, he just goes on college campuses and just fights with people. It's just all about fighting, right? And for some people, they say, wow, you know what we need? We need a young white dude just like Charlie Kirk. Make sure he's white, right? I know people get mad when I tell you the truth, but I'm just telling you how it is. And you may or may not know this. We have all the statistics and analytics on YouTube. So I know what all y'all watching, because literally it shows me, and it's all white people. I'm telling you the truth. And I know people don't want to hear it, but I'm telling what it is. And so then what the Democrat Party or, media, or want to call these people, they're looking for a Charlie Kirk kind of people to just go and fight just like Charlie Kirk. And you guys, I don't like Charlie Kirk, and I don't like people who fight like Charlie Kirk, even if I agree with said people. I just don't want that kind of culture. I think it's ludicrous. And if you want to make things better, you have real conversations about this. You have honesty. Not everyone out there to fight all the time. There's a lot of people just generally want to know the truth on stuff and fight corruption. I think that's a reasonable thing to say. And I have had several Republican friends in the past, right? And we can have conversations about all kinds of things, right? They may have a different version of how they want to solve, whatever problem. But it wasn't like we didn't want to solve problems. Today's world that we have right now, you just got a lot of whacked out people in office. It's crazy. There's multiple reasons for that. I'll just say this. Probably the number one reason is there's too much money in politics. And so, people are just stooges. And I think you guys know this stuff already. And then you can put it together with what you'll see on YouTube. And I'll just be frank with you guys. There's a lot of greedy people out there. And you know who they are. I'll leave it at that. And if you don't know, I feel sorry for you, but you should be able to figure it out by now. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this stuff. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you on the next video.